Hi guys, it's Kat and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we are doing something, I'm sorry, I keep looking down. I'm kind of nervous actually. Today we are doing something a little more personal than I've ever done before. If you saw my tips, I think it was like 12 life hacks or tips to feel happy. In that video, I asked if any of you wanted to see a video where I went more in depth about my experience with my parents' divorce. Today, I want to talk to you about what happened, how it made me feel, and how I eventually learned to deal with it and not be so upset about it all the time. I absolutely love my parents. They are both great people. I'm not trying to say anything bad about them at all. I cannot even imagine what they were going through all of this. I hope that this can help some of you, even if this helps one of you that's going through a similar situation. As far back as I can remember, to be completely honest, my parents were not happy. I have many memories of them when I was a child growing up, screaming and fighting. And I'm gonna be honest with you, it got to the point where now, if I hear people screaming or yelling at each other, even not just screaming, just yelling at each other, it just brings me back to that because it would happen so often. And I actually remember one distinct memory I have from when I was in 4th grade. My parents were in this huge fight, and I drew a picture of my parents, my sisters, our cats at the time, and me, and I wrote in it like, I will not get divorced, I promise. And I made both of my parents sign it, so technically I could sue them now. If I found it, I could sue them because they got divorced. So even back then, when I was like 9 years old, I remember them fighting, and I remember being terrified that they were gonna get a divorce. On and off, they really weren't doing too great. Obviously, I wasn't thinking this much into it at the time. I was just thinking, oh my gosh, my parents aren't happy. My parents are supposed to be happy. What is going on? This is not how it's supposed to be. But the truth is, and something that you need to remember, and once you accept this, you will notice a big difference in how you feel about it, is that there's no supposed to be. There's no right answer. There's no, your parents are your parents or they have to stay together. That's not true. High school is very back and forth. My freshman year and my sophomore year, a lot of fighting, a lot of arguing. And one of the things I remember them always saying to me, they would be clearly arguing, like they were clearly fighting. And I would go to them and I'd say, stop it, stop fighting, mom and dad. This is annoying. Like, you always do this, stop. And they would always say the same thing to me. We're not fighting, we're discussing. And I've noticed how that has affected me now. Say me and my boyfriend are going back and forth, and he'll say, I don't want to argue. And I catch myself saying, we're not arguing. Like, we're just talking about it. We're not arguing. And he's like, yes, this is an argument. I'm like, no, it's not. And then I think about it and I'm like, wait a minute, it is. With my parents, how they'd always be back and forth, and they'd say, we're not arguing, we're just discussing, it's fine, don't worry about it. And that went into my head, and now that's what I do. And that is one of the biggest tips and things that I need to stress, or that I want to stress to you, is that there are going to be little things that you pick up from your parents from fighting, or any of that, but just make sure that it doesn't affect you and your current relationships or your future relationships. My junior year is when my dad would start to leave. My grandma lived in New York at the time. We live in Connecticut, and my dad would go stay with my grandma for 3 weeks at a time, and then he would come back, and then he would go again, and then he would come back, and one minute they were working on their relationship, the next minute they weren't. So for me, it was super confusing because one week they were going on dates trying to work on their relationship and going to marriage counseling, and then the next week they hated each other, and my dad was going to move to New York with my grandma because they were going to get a divorce. And that back and forth is probably one of the biggest things that affected me. I feel like I'm realizing stuff this is very therapeutic for me right now. I'm gonna be honest. I really feel like I'm just sitting and talking to my friend about this. So the first trimester of my senior year, it was pretty much the same thing as my junior year. One minute they were going to counseling, the next they were getting divorced. And finally, at the end of the year, closer to Christmas time, they decided that they were gonna get separated. And they were not trying anymore. They knew they were gonna get divorced. That was that. And New Year's of 2013, New Year's, like January 1st, 2013, my dad signed a lease for an apartment in our same town. So he was only like 5 minutes away. They could see other people. They were open with each other that they could see other people. And my dad got a girlfriend. The girlfriend had a daughter who went to the same school as me, was in my grade. I had known who she was. I mean, we've been going to school together since like 5th grade. It was weird when I would be in school because obviously we both know, but we didn't talk. And I remember those few months, like January to April maybe, I was just very sad and confused, and honestly heartbroken that my family was breaking up. Yeah, I don't know if you ever heard this, but my mom used to say this to me, that people don't remember what you did or what you said or any of that, but they remember how you made them feel. And in this situation, I remember how I felt. And I remember I felt really bad. All I wanted was for my family to get back together, but it wasn't happening, and there was nothing that I could do to make it happen. But I also know that my parents weren't happy. They were not happy. And at the end of the day, I am happy that they got divorced, because my life would be a whole lot worse if they were still together. I guarantee you, with all the fighting and the yelling and the screaming and the arguing. It was the spring of my senior year of high school where I literally remember flipping that switch in my brain. And this goes for any sort of sucky situation in life. You can either choose to sit there and just be upset about it and cry about it and be sad about it, or you can choose to accept it, embrace it, don't pretend like it didn't happen or that it's not happening. Know that it's there, but be okay with it. And whichever one of those options you choose, it's still going to happen. Your parents are still going to have these problems. They will still get divorced, whether you are upset about it or you accept it and you don't let it take over your life. And that's something that is really, really difficult to do. It's so much easier said than done. I just remember it was literally like this huge weight was lifted off my shoulders when I finally said to myself, it's okay. I'm not going to be upset about it anymore. I'm going to have a great relationship with my dad, a great relationship with my mom. But with any of this, being open and telling them how you feel. Talk to a therapist, talk to a friend, talk to a family member. One of my biggest tips that, if possible, I really recommend you do is don't take advantage of the fact that your siblings are going through the same thing if you have siblings. So at the time when all this was happening, when I was in high school, my sisters were a little too young for me to talk to them about it. But now, like, my sister is 18, I'm 22, she's 18, and we talk all the time. So it's great to be able to talk to somebody who's going through the exact same thing as you are and be there for each other and support each other. And also, do not compare your situation to anyone else's situation. Be grateful for what you do have, but also understand that just because somebody else has it worse doesn't mean that you're not allowed to feel upset about your own problems. When I was a sophomore in college, that is when my parents officially filed and got divorced and everything. I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of a relief. Like, after all of those years of all of that struggle with all of it, it finally had closure. And that's where we are today. My dad lives in New York with his girlfriend. We live here in Connecticut with my mom's boyfriend. I really like my mom's boyfriend. I really like my dad's girlfriend. I feel like there's so much more that I wanted, like, that I'm gonna be like, oh, I wish I said this, I wish I said that. So if you guys want to see a Q&A, like a follow-up to this, just let me know any questions in the comments. Let me know any topics that you want me to cover in the follow-up for this video. And I will definitely do that if you're interested in seeing that. I love you guys so much. I really, really hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.